and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about how we can play with our cats and exploring cat play behavior. So today I'm joined by Dr. Mikel Delgado. Dr. Delgado is a certified applied animal behaviorist and a cat behavior consultant at Feline Minds. She is also a senior research scientist in the Crony Research Group at Purdue, and she worked as a postdoc fellow at the School of Veterinary Medicine at UC Davis, where she researched the feeding behavior of adult cats and the health and development of orphan neonatal kittens. She received her PhD from UC Berkeley, where she studied animal behavior and the human-animal relationship. And Mikel's book, Play with Your Cat, was just released in March 2024. And she also co-authored a book with Jackson Galaxy in 2017 called Total Cat Mojo. She's also published her research about cats, squirrels, evolution, and human attachment to pets in several academic journals. So thank you so much for joining us today, Mikel.
Thank you, Kristen. I'm very excited to chat with you.
Great. And Mikel is an expert in cat play, so she is really the person to speak on the subject. So we're really excited to have you here. All right. So what we're going to do today is just watch a few clips that Mikel sent me of different examples of cats playing and chat about what we're seeing.
It's like what everybody on the internet is doing, right? Just
exactly.
Watching videos of cats together.
Exactly. The most fun thing, right? So yeah, let's go ahead and watch the first video that Mikel sent. And this is a video of a hunting blind. So can you kind of describe what we're seeing? There's some text on the screen, but maybe you can just describe it.
Yeah, sure. So a hunting blind is something that predators, including human hunters, use to basically conceal themselves from their prey. And actually, when I was writing the book, I did a little research on hunting blinds because it turns out that humans have very fancy ones that include like card tables and televisions and stuff. But for animals, other animals besides humans who are hunting, such as our cats, it's really just the tendency they have to go behind something that provides them with some cover when they're hunting. So for cats outdoors who are hunting, that might be like a shrub or a tree or a human-made structure. And we can kind of duplicate that in our homes just with things we have laying around. It could be a cardboard box. In this video, as you've seen, it's a chair with a towel draped over the edge so the cats can kind of hunt the toy from behind the towel. So this is a great strategy to allow your cat to kind of feel like they're concealing themselves from the prey, which in this case is usually an interactive toy, and gives them really just an outlet for that natural part of hunting behavior, which is to try to remain undetected by their prey as long as possible until they can't resist and pop out from the hide to catch the prey. So really, when I'm thinking about play, I think people really focus on the toy, right? It's like moving the toy, whipping it around. And I also like to encourage people to think about kind of the background or setting the scene for the play. So we're almost setting up an environment that would resemble what cats are doing outside when they're naturally hunting. And of course, this is all based on the concept that hunting and play have similar motivations, similar behavior patterns. So when we play with our cats, we're really trying to give them a hunting experience. So for me, that goes beyond the toy, but also goes through to the environment and how we set it up. So this is just a really easy thing that people can do. You can try it at home. All you need is a chair and a towel. Most people have those. So see if your cat responds and enjoys kind of the hiding process when they're playing with a toy.
Yeah, so we're really kind of trying to tap into that predatory behavior, right? When we're looking at play, like what is the cat's biology and how can we use that to inform how we play with them?
Absolutely. I think, a lot of us probably keep our cats indoors. I keep my cats indoors. We have a catio, but they don't have a lot of opportunities to hunt more than maybe a fly. So sometimes people forget that this is an instinct in our cats that we have not selected out of them during domestication, right? We haven't asked them to change that hunting behavior. And in fact, a lot of cats still survive outdoors because they're hunters. And the cats we live with in our homes are the same species. They have those same drives, but we often don't think of play as being that kind of pseudo predatory behavior. So yes, I'm all about trying to tap into your cat's natural instincts and, doing it in a way that doesn't lead to any birds or mice dying. Right. Possible.
Something that works for everyone here. Yeah. So let's move on to the next video. So here we've got some play occurring under a rug. Can you describe what we're seeing here?
Yeah, I call this my power move. A lot of people, when they try this with their cats, are pretty impressed with how effective it is. And like, if I can't get a cat to play, this is kind of what I do. It's like, okay, I'm going to try moving a stick. It's often the stick end of the toy. I guess maybe because it looks like a mouse tail. But so cats really like and are attracted to things in their environment that prey could hide in or under. So, for example, they like crevices in walls. And if you've ever lived in a place, like I lived in this kind of trashy apartment in San Francisco that had mice, and there was a hole in the wall. And my cats would just sit by that hole in the wall for hours, like just staring, right? So they're very attracted to these things that prey would naturally go into. So like a hole in a tree or underneath something. And so a lot of prey animals would naturally go under something to hide, right? There's kind of that stereotype, I think, in cartoons, maybe Tom and Jerry, of like the mouse going under the rug. And so there's that aspect, which is just that prey would naturally hide under things. So cats are kind of attracted to movement under them. And there's also research, and I know you've written about some of this work about kind of their cognitive abilities to understand like movement of objects behind a barrier, right? So cats seem to be able to track prey if it goes behind like a wall and then comes out the other side, right? They have some sort of understanding of the physics or natural movement of their prey that leads to kind of sometimes they're obscured and then sometimes they pop out somewhere else. So I think there's a couple of things that might be going on with why this move tends to be pretty effective with cats. And, I think so part of it is just how prey naturally behave and they're hiding, mice don't want to get killed by a cat, so they're going to be very motivated to like run behind something, run under something to try to escape. And again, cats are tuned into certain types of movement, like their eyes are better at like detecting certain movements, and they do seem to be naturally attracted to certain things that would suggest, hey, there's something alive under here or behind that, so maybe you should pay attention to it in case it's something you could eat, which would of course help a cat survive if they were taking care of themselves. So the toy under the rug, like maybe I went too deep onto something that's very simple. You just move the stick under the rug, and most cats really like it. So, and part of it is that kind of like it's popping out, it's going back in, and then they can, like I said, this is definitely a move that most cats really like. And so when people say, "Oh, my cat's hard to play with," I'm like, just try moving the stick really slowly under a rug and tell me what happens. So, yeah, it's cute too. I don't know, it's cute.
And I will say, my cat Carl loves the stick end of the toy as well.
Oh my
Like,
God.
he'll sometimes play with the feather end, but if you give him the stick end, it's like guaranteed he's going to play with it. So
Yeah.
it's so funny like that.
It is really funny because people spend so much time focused on the lure end, which sometimes is very elaborate and brightly colored and flashy and has all kinds of stuff, and the cat's really just like, give me the stick end.
Right. Yeah. Like everything else, you buy like this nice cat tree and then they hang out in the box it came in. But
Exactly.
enrichment's enrichment. So
Absolutely.
So kind of going off the same idea, here you have a video with tissue paper and it kind of
Yeah.
adds that auditory component.
Yeah.
Now, prey animals don't really sound like tissue paper, but do you think that there's still something with that where it's kind of stimulating that prey drive?
Yeah, and what I would say about the tissue paper is that although it doesn't resemble any of the sounds that prey naturally make, it could resemble, for example, the sound of a mouse or a bird kind of hopping around in dried leaves, which is a common scenario that cats might encounter if they're outside. So there are cues in the environment that cats attend to, and those are the kinds of things that actually sometimes start the hunting behavior sequence rather than them like kind of searching. What happens is they'll hear a sound, right? So sometimes if you move a toy under the tissue paper, it's telling your cat like, something's moving in the environment, maybe you should become interested. And so that can kind of spark some play in cats too. But yeah, I also, for the same reason as the like toy under the rug, the tissue paper is also kind of, I mean, the nice thing about tissue paper too is it's kind of semi-translucent, so there's that kind of element of partially obscured but still visible, and the auditory. And I think we're so visual that of course we don't always think about how our cats experience the environment, right? And so thinking again about the colors of toys or what the toy looks like, and to your cat it might be very fuzzy or gray and to us it's like, oh, it's bright red and like looks like a strawberry, and the cat's just like, it's fuzzy and gray and smells like catnip, so it's cool. So it is trying to incorporate as many of their senses as possible during a play session is great. It doesn't have to be all of them at once, but you could think about like, how am I going to incorporate scent and olfaction into my play session? How am I going to incorporate sound? And we always want to be respectful of our individual cat. So sometimes sound is too much. Like some toys have a bell on them, and some cats find that a little maybe scary. So I often take the bells off of my interactive toys, but really thinking like beyond vision, like tactile, even taste, right? So maybe you give your cat a treat at the end, or maybe you tie a treat to the end of a string or whatever will get them kind of excited and interested in more than just the visual part.
That's such a good idea, to tie a treat to the end and then let them catch it, and they get that automatic reward, just like predation. That's perfect.
Absolutely.
Great. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the next video. So here we've got a video of the cat watching the toy, and this cat watches this toy for a while, right?
Yeah, so this video, I sped it up. This is something I posted on Instagram recently, and it was like a 6-minute long video or something, like absurdly long. And so when you think of it in that context, I was moving the toy barely at all for a lot of this video. And that's my cat Ruby. She's kind of a slow starter when it comes to play, so you do often have to move the toy very slowly, barely at all, for several minutes before you get that final like pouncing at the toy. And I wanted to post about this because a lot of people don't recognize this part as play.
Yes.
And they get bored.
Yes, absolutely.
So they give up before they would. Most people would not maybe sit there for 6 minutes, barely moving a toy for their cat in the hopes of this kind of payoff pounce at the end. So I do want people to understand that for cats, one, moving the toy and whipping it around is not often how animals move, right? So I think just from the human perspective, especially if you have a kitten, sure, you can wave the toy around, the kitten's doing backflips and running around and loving it. They'll chase anything that moves. But as cats become adults, they become a little more discerning. They're going to be a little more like, is that really something I should invest time in chasing or not? And so what that means is that they're spending a lot more time watching and stalking and less time kind of running around doing laps around your living room.
Right.
So we do want to approach play with that awareness. And so the other thing I always try to bring to someone who wants to learn more about playing with their cat is this element of experimentation, right? And so as scientists, we know like you test different hypotheses. And we also know that preferences are not universal. So your cat might like one type of movement on one day and a different type on another. So I want people to try different things with their cats. But one of the things I want them to try is slowing down and then seeing how their cat responds to that slower movement. And in this case, I'm also using this cat bed called the cat ball, which is like a tunnel that's shaped like a dome or circle. It's a really nice cat bed, but my cats really like it for play. So it's got openings on both sides. My cats really like to look through the opening to the toys on the other side, and sometimes they jump on top of it. But really what I'm doing is partially obscuring the toy with this bed and just moving it very slowly and keeping an eye on like her interest. And certainly she's not, you can see there's a couple times where she kind of looks away and starts rubbing her face on the bed. But what I'm really looking for is this kind of like butt wiggle. So here's where she kind of lost interest and then she regained interest. So don't give up right away. I guess the moral of the story. And again, thinking like prey. If I'm a bird or a mouse and I've been detected by a cat, the best strategy may not be to run because running is going to encourage chasing. Right. And so I might actually freeze and fidget, right? So we know about those kind of evolutionary responses to stress. So some animals are going to barely be moving at all. And of course, cats still interested. So they're going to continue stalking and watching. So for adult cats, especially, I think the kind of the cognitive and watching part takes up much more of the play than the backflips and running around, which is probably why there's not good evidence that playtime contributes significantly to weight loss.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So, but I think when people see like kind of, okay, like it can take a while, then maybe they will be a little more patient with their cat when they're moving the toy and not just think, oh, he's not interested, I'm going to walk away, because we're not seeing a lot of running around, but she's watching the toy.
Yeah, and I think what you said is really important, that this watching phase is part of playing. Yes. Although they're not being super active, they're playing. So it's still really important at this stage to keep going because there's interest here from this cat.
Yeah, and especially if you have like an older cat, like maybe watching is all they do.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
okay.
That's what they like to do, and that's great because you're still stimulating that drive for them. And so kind of in the same vein, we've got another video here of a cat lazy playing, which I
Yeah.
love. I've had cats that play like this, but I guess what would you say to people who get bored with a cat like this or a cat that watches for a long time? Do you have any thoughts for them?
Yeah, I mean, this is the human behavior change part is always the hardest part of working with, cat behavior is like helping cat guardians do the right thing. And everyone feels busy. Everyone wants things to get done quickly. We're distracted. We want to check our Instagram. We want to like, got phone calls, whatever, work, etc. So, I'm not like super like, oh, just, relax and chill. Like that's not my personality. I tend to be a little more high strung and anxious myself, but but it is really kind of, one, understanding that play is beneficial for your cat, right? So we're doing this for our cats, primarily for their emotional well-being, but also for their physical well-being. So and then thinking again that play is not just running around and doing backflips. It's touching the toy. Maybe it's bringing it to their mouth. It's rolling around with it. So if whatever you can do to kind of allow yourself to take a breath and just enjoy what you're doing for your cat and have fun with it. I really like, for me, I really try to like, how am I going to make this fun for my cats? It's a little bit of a challenge. And I also do things on a routine pretty strictly as far as the cats. So one thing we always do is like we play with the cats after dinner.
Okay.
That's the routine. That's how we get it done. So I don't save it for when I just, have a moment here or there, because then it will never get done. I can tell you, like, I'm always like, that's like my goal for exercise, right? I'm going to lift weights when I have a minute here or there. I can tell you I haven't lifted weights in a long time. So for the cats, I do structure things a little bit more. And of course I do have spontaneous, like I work from home. So if I can tell they're kind of feeling frisky, then I'll take a work break and play with them for 3 minutes. So I think the other thing too is that it doesn't have to necessarily be like a huge commitment. I think sometimes people think like, oh, I have to play with my cat for an hour or it's not worth doing at all. And no, you can actually play with your cat for 3 to 5 minutes and have a great time with them, and they'll enjoy it and benefit from it too. So every cat's different. Some cats need a lot more play, some cats need less play, but yeah, I think trying to, one, understand like it's good for their cat. Two, try to set a routine and stick to it to an extent. And three, just changing their perspective about what play looks like will hopefully help.
Yeah. Yeah, and exactly, also recognizing that lazy playing or watching are components of play.
Yeah.
So just remembering, well, your cat is playing, even if it's not jumping, just kind of reframing how you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so on that idea that play is kind of different for each cat, here we have a compilation of just some different cats playing,
Yeah.
various ages, various toys. So would you say that there are different play styles in cats, and what different styles do you see?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think this was Orlando, one of my foster kittens. So this was like a super old compilation of videos. I think back when I had like, it was a recorder with tape inside it and stuff. So
Old school.
yeah, it was very old school. That was my cat Beanie when she was a kitten. She was a kind of fairly rescue. So yeah, we do know that kittens are more playful than adults, right? And part of that is that skill building aspect of play, which is, building motor skills, practicing hunting behavior, practicing social interactions and learning about your environment. So these are all things that play offers to our cats when they're kittens, and probably one of the reasons that they do it quite a bit when they're young. And then as cats get older, we do see some declines in activity, and that's probably just due to aging. Cats should in theory hunt their entire lives and play their entire lives, because if they're outdoors taking care of themselves, then they need to get food to survive. But also outdoor cats don't necessarily live to be 18 or 20 as often, so maybe they're not as equipped to hunt their entire life. But yeah, so kittens, I would say one difference is just that they are a little more like anything that moves, they'll pounce on it. They're more like rambunctious. They'll run around and climb things more. I've certainly known plenty of adult cats who were very active and were very physical in their play. But I would say just kittens are more likely to do some of those backflips and be a little more like they need more play. I mean, I've definitely had clients tell me they could play with their cat for 2 hours straight and the cat would keep going until they're like panting, right? So you don't see that as much with older cats. Now this cat, Haley, she was a shelter kitty. She was 9 years old, I believe, when we took this video. Check out that backflip. Nice.
So impressive.
Yeah, so she was really active for her age, which was nice. So she's a good example of like, don't judge a cat by their age because they still might be very playful. This is a great toy called the DeBird, which a lot of cats really respond to as if it was a real bird. It has really realistic movement and probably feel like when they grab it and touch it, because I believe it's made from real feathers.
And even the noise of it, if you get it going,
Yes.
sounds like a bird.
Yeah. So again, thinking about all of the senses. But as far as like kittens, the other thing is, we want to make sure we're setting them up for success as a companion. So making sure we're using toys to play and not our hands. I mean, that's true of all cats, but we don't want to get kittens into bad habits when they're young. So we do see sometimes kittens can get a little rowdy or bite and scratch their humans. Like sometimes maybe the person wants to pet the kitten and the kitten wants to play. And so the kitten kind of goes into that kind of biting and scratching mode. So we do want to make sure we're giving them enough play and that we're playing with them with appropriate toys so that they have good outlets for those natural predatory behaviors and aren't chasing our ankles and biting our fingers, things that might seem cute when they're tiny, but definitely don't stay cute as they get bigger.
Yeah, and some of those problem behaviors that do develop stem from just not having the right type of stimulation or enrichment in their environment.
Absolutely.
So we already saw this clip, but I want to come back to it. It was within this compilation here. We've got this cat playing, and then I believe, was this your cat?
Yeah, this is my cat, Clarabelle.
I recognize her. Yes.
Yeah, this is
so
when she was really young.
grabs that feather, right, and carries it. Is that something she did a lot?
Yeah, she did like to carry her toys around and tug on them, and so we would just give up and let her drag them around the house.
That's my cat Carl too. Like nice. He really, that's like part of his play is taking the toy and carrying it somewhere else.
Yes.
Why does that occur? Why do some cats do that?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and what I think we can infer is just that it's part of the natural predatory cycle in that cats, when they hunt, do tend to carry their prey somewhere else before they consume it or abandon it. This is one reason that cats bring presents home to people is not so much that they're bringing presents, but that they're just taking the prey somewhere where they feel safer is what we believe is the, it's kind of the best explanation for the behavior because they will just take the prey somewhere else. So again, thinking of play as hunting, their little brain is saying like, I better take this somewhere else and save. And so my own cats do this now too. And they often take it to like their cat bed or a box. So it's somewhere where they feel a little sheltered. So again, thinking they're just being protective, like I'm going to take this, it's valuable. I'm going to take it somewhere and I can either sit on it or eat it later. But yeah, I'm not going to stay vulnerable out here in the open where I've been hunting and consume it here. I'm going to take it somewhere else.
And have you heard of those cats that the indoor outdoor cats that will go over to neighbor's house and like steal items
their underwear
and bring them home? Right.
I feel like it's always underwear.
Yeah. What is that? So do you think that's a similar type of play behavior where they're bringing the potential prey items home?
Yeah, so this is a topic I've been pretty interested in. I have a paper under review right now with some other folks about fetching behavior in cats and really and dogs actually. So it's like a comparison of fetching in cats and dogs, but kind of trying to think about where does fetching and carrying items, where do those things fit into the predatory cycle and how do they become kind of decoupled from each other, right? So you can have cats who, obviously cats chase an item and some cats will carry it, some cats will carry it back, and then some cats just carry the items without fetching them, right? They collect. So what we're thinking is really that parts of the predatory sequence can become basically separated from each other and become hypertrophied, where certain aspects of the predatory sequence become kind of ingrained in that individual cat. So they may not complete the entire sequence. So in that case, the cat is finding objects, but not necessarily chasing them. And for whatever reason, they're bringing them back to somewhere they feel safer. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think it's a really cute behavior. And it's, every now and then you read in the news, the cat stole like lots of different things from a neighbor. But again, yeah, it's probably a behavior that either made sense in a different context or is just like I said, kind of their fixed locked into that behavior and they repeat it over and over again, and it's not causing any harm to them. Maybe the neighbor's a little annoyed, but
Right. Yep.
but yeah, so it is interesting how and I think it comes to like a lot of behaviors that people have questions about, like, why does my cat X, Y, or Z? And sometimes we don't know. We have to kind of make good guesses based on the natural behavior and ethology of a species, or what other animals do and what makes the most sense. Unfortunately, we can't like sit our cats down and ask them, like, why do you do this very strange behavior? But sometimes they are just behaviors that evolved because they were either protective or had no harmful effect, and we haven't selected against them. So they kind of continue to persist even if they don't make sense in the current environment.
And while we're on this video, because I do notice your other cat is in this video as well.
Yeah.
So do you suggest people play with their cats like in a group like this or individually, or does it just depend on the cat?
Yeah, I would say in most cases I would either separate the cats or play with them separately. So in this case, they're not necessarily like clashing, and these two got along very well. They were very bonded. But you could make the argument, so there's Clarabelle who's playing, and then it was Beanie who was off to the side. Like, Beanie's not really getting much out of this play session, right? So I would always want to make sure she had time with the toy. And when you have one cat who's really like super into the play and one cat who's kind of watching, often cat owners will say, oh, he just likes to watch. And I'm like, he doesn't just like to watch. He's just not comfortable enough to get in there because the other cat's hogging the toy. So in that case, I would maybe take Beanie into another space and play with her alone, close the door, or, give Clarabelle a food puzzle. And then, so it's not like a punishment, like she's being, cats hate closed doors. So, so there's always a balance of like the individual cat's needs and making sure everybody has the opportunity to play, thinking about how well the cats get along and how safe it is to play with them together. But keeping in mind that cats like don't hunt in groups, so it's not necessarily natural for them to play together. But I wouldn't say like it's bad in every case. I would just say, you have to kind of make sure every cat has the opportunity to play freely. And if you're noticing that one cat is just hanging back and you are playing with your cats in a group, then you probably should try playing with them separately and see if you get different results.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, just trying different things. You mentioned this earlier, try different things with your cat and see what works and what doesn't. And you might be surprised. I think sometimes people are surprised with what actually gets their cat, excited to play.
Yeah, when I discovered my cats like to play with green beans, that was very surprising. But someone, a cat behaviorist from India had sent me a video of her cats playing with vegetables, and I was like, what? And I was like, I gotta try this. And sure enough, my cats really enjoy green beans.
Oh my gosh, I've got green beans in the fridge. Maybe I should try later.
Give it a try. Yeah.
Great. Well, I think we're on our last video. Yep.
Okay.
So we saw this butt wiggle earlier, but if you could just tell us what's the deal with the butt wiggle? I get asked about this all the time, so I'd love to hear your take on it.
Yeah, it's the cutest behavior. That's my take on it. No, but yeah, so it doesn't seem very dignified, like, they're hunting and then they're like doing this thing that of course to us looks very silly and cute, and maybe to other cats it doesn't. And there's different theories about why cats do this. So some say it's to reduce tension in the body from kind of holding still. I mean, this cat's not really holding still for that long. She goes straight to the butt wiggle. It could be like propelling movement. So they're kind of like getting pumped up for the pounce. Those are the best explanations that I've heard, is really just like either reducing muscle tension or getting ready to move. Do you have better ones?
No, that's actually usually what I say too. So yeah.
Yeah. So again, we can't ask cats, right? I mean, I think we'd all love to be like, why do you do this cute thing? But and it is funny. I mean, it's just so
and would you say when you see the butt wiggle, it's a pretty good indicator they're about to pounce?
Yes. I would definitely say it's like a pre-pounce behavior for sure.
And it definitely is one of the cuter ones for sure.
So
I love when my cats do that.
I know, it's really ridiculous.
Great. So that's our last video. Do you have any other thoughts you'd like to share on play, or, any closing remarks?
Well, I do have a lot of thoughts on play, which is why I wrote a book about play. So
here.
Yes. But I think the main thing is really trying to have fun with it. And that's really what I wanted to bring to cat owners through this book, was like, play should be fun. It should be fun for you. It should be fun for your cat. And, enjoy that time that you spend with your cat, giving them an outlet for a natural behavior, which is one of the key tenets of welfare for animals that we're keeping. I know the calling cats captives is like very controversial, and like maybe it's not necessarily like a perfect descriptor of our relationship with them, but we do control a lot of aspects of their lives. And so giving them the ability to be cats is really important, and play is one of the best ways you can do that. But there's lots of other ways too. But it is, to me, it's one of the more important ones.
And it's fun. I even think the lazy playing's fun to just
me
see
too.
like,
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
so cute.
they're doing their thing, and that they're expressing their natural behavior, and it's good for them. So yeah, this is inspiring me to play with my cats more. And I think too, you made the point, it doesn't have to be very long. 3 minutes is better than no minutes. And
Absolutely.
for cats, 3 to 5 minutes is probably more natural for them than a 20 half-hour minute session, because are they
Yeah,
actually going to be chasing prey for a half hour?
that's a great point. They're
Yeah.
not pursuit predators, right?
Mhm.
They're stalk and rush predators. So it is often short bursts of energy. So yeah, don't feel like you have to train your cat like you would train yourself.
Mhm. Definitely. Great. Well, definitely check out Mikel's book. I've read it, and it's definitely the go-to book in terms of cat play. You will learn so much, so it's highly recommended. And you can learn more about Mikel at her website and her blog, and info about the book is on your website where you can purchase it and all that. So thank you so much for joining us, Mikel. This was really informative and very fun. So
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. So thank you again.
thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone.